Welcome to Outreach Your Limits with AI. We're the show that really dives deep to bring you the insights you need right now.
Glad to be here.
Today, we're tackling something, something a lot of you are probably wrestling with. That sprawling world of multi-cloud.
Mm-hmm.
You think about it, your IT stuff might be on AWS, maybe Azure, Google Cloud, perhaps even your own data center still.
Right, a mix and match approach.
Exactly. And the initial idea, it sounds great. Pick the absolute best tool for each specific job, unlock ultimate flexibility, great performance.
And that promise, leveraging those specialized services from different providers, it's really compelling, isn't it?
Totally.
You might find one cloud's just fantastic for AI work, another has brilliant global content delivery, maybe a third really nails some specific compliance rules you need to follow. Strategically, it makes a ton of sense on paper.
It really does. But then you fast forward a bit and suddenly you're trying to manage this complex web of totally different environments.
Yeah, that's where the seams can start to show.
And that's where that initial promise can start to, unravel. It leads to some serious headaches, honestly. So our focus today is squarely on those difficulties, that headache of managing these separate cloud platforms when you don't have a unified approach. And especially, we want to hit those budget nightmares, costs that can just escalate incredibly quickly if you're not watching closely.
Costs can absolutely fly high in a second, yeah.
We'll be drawing on some recent expert analysis about multi-cloud strategies and also looking at the potential of these dedicated multi-cloud platforms.
Yeah.
And consider this statistic. 9 out of 10 companies are already using multiple clouds. That's according to the Flexera 2024 Start of the Cloud report.
Yeah, 9 out of 10.
Yeah, so this isn't some, future problem we're discussing. It's the reality for most organizations right now.
And as more and more organizations jump into this multi-cloud reality, those cracks in, let's say, uncoordinated management, they become really obvious really fast.
Yep.
I mean, the motivations avoiding vendor lock-in, getting those best-of-breed services, they're sound reasons.
Yeah.
But if you don't have a cohesive strategy, you can easily just get bogged down. Bogged down in operational complexities and, like you said, those unexpected costs.
Okay, let's get right to the core of it then. Just the sheer complexity, managing fundamentally different platforms.
Yeah.
Conrad Kraft highlights this in his analysis. Each cloud provider, they've got their own management tools, right? Their own security protocols, even their own way of measuring how well things are running.
It's like trying to manage an orchestra where every section uses different sheet music and maybe even speaks a different language.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. It makes maintaining a clear overall picture a real challenge.
It really does. Imagine trying to keep tabs on the health, the efficiency of your whole IT infrastructure when your key monitoring tools, your performance dashboards, they're all scattered across these separate independent systems.
You get blind spots.
Exactly. You create blind spots.
Right.
And that's where problems can just hide and fester and grow. Kraft really stresses the absolute necessity of having a robust management system, one that understands the specific quirks of each cloud, but still gives you that crucial unified perspective.
And it's not just, the huge enterprises dealing with this. Kraft points out that even companies you might think have simply IT setups, they often end up with this, he calls it a conglomeration of different bits and pieces.
Right, like on-prem servers, VMs, mobile stuff, cloud services.
Exactly, all mixed together. And trying to manage all of that without some kind of central control, that sounds like, herding cats, basically.
It really does.
Yeah. He even brings up these really mission-critical scenarios like autonomous driving systems or think about future energy grids. The entire business model there relies on seamless interaction between massive amounts of data, different services, all running across different clouds. The potential for things to go wrong without unified management in those kinds of environments is, frankly, it's kind of mind-boggling.
It really underscores how vital that single overarching view is. And this is where that concept, the single pane of glass solution comes in. Novatech AI talks about this quite a bit in the context of multi-cloud platforms, or MCPs.
Right, the MCPs.
Yeah, think of it like a central dashboard. You log in, and you can see the health of all your applications, the security alerts from all your different clouds, your total cloud spend, hopefully all in one place.
That sounds like the dream.
Well, that's the aim, right? To provide that unified management layer across everything.
Which brings us neatly to the issue I know is top of mind for so many people listening.
Yeah.
The potential for multi-cloud to just become a massive drain on the budget if it's not managed really carefully.
Oh, absolutely. Budgetary nightmares are a real risk.
Novatech AI, they don't mince words here. They warn that costs can, and I quote, fly high in a second if you lack that central visibility.
And it's easy to see why, isn't it? You've got different pricing models on each cloud, maybe services running that someone spun up for a test and forgot about.
Yeah, zombie resources.
Exactly. Duplicated efforts across different teams working on different platforms. It's just a perfect storm for getting hit with unexpected bills.
Absolutely. When each cloud environment is kind of operating in its own little world, those opportunities for cost optimization are just too easy to miss.
Totally. You might have resources just sitting idle on, say, AWS, while your teams over here are spinning up new, similar resources on Azure, simply because there's no consolidated view of what you're actually consuming overall.
And those duplicated efforts, teams working in isolation on different clouds, maybe rebuilding similar tools or processes, that can really, really add up over time.
It definitely can. Thankfully, this is another big area where these MCPs, these multi-cloud platforms, they aim to step in and provide some much-needed control.
How so?
Well, Novatech AI highlights that these platforms can analyze your usage patterns, look across all your clouds, and identify areas where you could potentially save money.
Okay, so finding wastage?
Finding wastage, finding underutilized resources. And some platforms even take it a step further. They can automate the placement of workloads onto the most cost-effective cloud resources available at any given moment.
Oh, interesting, like dynamic shifting.
Exactly. And there's a really powerful example of this in the Transformative Impact of Multi-Cloud Platforms report. They mentioned Netflix. Apparently, Netflix managed to slash their infrastructure costs by, get this, around 35% annually.
Wow, 35%?
Yeah, just by intelligently shifting their workloads between different cloud options based on cost and performance.
That's huge. That really shows the potential savings if you have that strategic control.
It's a truly impressive figure, and it demonstrates the real power of strategic workload management. But the report also raises a really crucial counterpoint.
Okay.
Without strong governance, you often hear this called FinOps practices these days. Simply adopting multi-cloud can actually lead to higher costs, not lower.
Right. So it's not automatic savings just because you use multiple clouds.
Not at all. It's not just about being present on multiple clouds. It's about having a really well-defined, actively managed strategy for how you consume and optimize those resources. You need that financial discipline layered on top.
Okay, so if the core problems are these fragmented platforms, this headache of managing separate things, and that ever-present risk of costs just running away, what's the potential solution people are looking at?
Well, that brings us squarely back to these multi-cloud platforms, the MCPs we mentioned.
Right.
Both Novatech AI and the Transformative Impact report suggest these are really emerging as a critical way to, get a handle on the management challenges of running across multiple clouds.
So the central idea is unification.
Exactly. The fundamental idea behind MCPs is to bring everything together, to provide that central point of control we've been talking about, giving you a unified way to manage all these diverse cloud environments, ideally through a single interface.
Which sounds like it would simplify things considerably.
Inherently, yes. It simplifies a lot of that underlying complexity, at least from the management perspective.
And what kind of capabilities do these MCPs typically offer?
Well, Novatech AI outlines several key functions. First, the ability to monitor your costs, your security posture, application performance, all across all your clouds from that single dashboard we envisioned earlier.
The single pane of glass.
That's the one. They also often enable automation of workload placement. So applications can be moved based on performance needs, or maybe compliance rules, or as we discussed, cost considerations.
Okay, that makes sense.
Beyond that, a major focus for many MCPs is ensuring consistent security across your entire multi-cloud footprint.
Which must be a huge challenge otherwise.
Oh, absolutely. So this includes managing encryption consistently, handling identity and access management uniformly, and enforcing your specific compliance policies across all your environments, regardless of whether it's AWS, Azure, GCP, or something else.
And what about resilience? Like if one cloud provider has an issue?
That's another big one. Novatech AI specifically mentions the capability to automatically shift workloads over to healthy clouds if one provider experiences an outage.
Ah, automated failover.
Exactly. And that kind of automated failover is a huge win for business continuity. Keeps things running.
I can imagine.
And for your development teams, MCPs can really streamline the whole DevOps process too. By supporting technologies like Kubernetes and containers, they help enable that build once, deploy anywhere approach.
Right, so developers don't have to rebuild things for each different cloud.
Precisely. It makes it much easier to deploy and manage applications consistently across a really diverse infrastructure.
Now, the Transformative Impact Report, it also gives us a glimpse at some of the actual players in this space, right? The companies offering these platforms.
It does. It mentions several key ones. You've got platforms like VMware Cloud Foundation, HashiCorp with their Terraform stack, which is really interesting. It lets you manage infrastructure as code rather than clicking around in consoles.
Infrastructure as code? Yeah, that's a big concept.
Huge. Then there's IBM Cloud Satellite, Cisco Intersight, Google Anthos, Red Hat OpenShift, FlexRow 1. It's quite a list.
And they all offer slightly different takes on this.
Yeah, each offers different ways to achieve that unified management and control. For instance, VMware really focuses on providing a consistent infrastructure experience, making different clouds feel more alike. Whereas Terraform offers a more vendor-agnostic way to just define and deploy your infrastructure, whatever it might be.
So it's a really interesting and I guess rapidly evolving area.
It really is. And it's important for you, the listener, to understand that the best MCP isn't a one-size-fits-all thing. It really depends on your specific needs, what your current IT environment looks like, what your priorities are.
Right. Some companies might prioritize easy workload movement. Others might be laser focused on cost optimization, or maybe maintaining that consistent security posture is paramount.
Exactly. You need to evaluate them based on your own context.
Okay, to really hammer home why the centralized management is so important, let's maybe look at some of those real-world examples of companies using multi-cloud strategically.
Good idea.
The Transformative Impact Report mentions JP Morgan Chase, for instance. They seem to optimize where different workloads run very carefully.
How so?
Well, they use Google Cloud for AI and machine learning, AWS for their customer-facing apps, and Azure for sensitive data. And apparently, this is all driven by specific cost, performance, and compliance needs for each workload.
Okay, that's a very deliberate strategy.
But you can immediately see, right? Trying to manage that kind of carefully distributed environment without some kind of central overview, well, it would be incredibly complex. You'd lose track fast.
Precisely. You need that central visibility just to even understand where everything is running, let alone why it's running there and how it's performing.
Right.
Then you have the Cleveland Clinic example. They use Cisco Cloud Center to orchestrate automated failover between AWS and Azure for their critical patient record systems.
Wow, for patient records, that's high stake.
Extremely high stakes. And that level of automated resilience, that safety net, it simply wouldn't be feasible without a centralized orchestration platform calling the shots.
Makes sense. And what about Zalando, the fashion retailer?
Yeah, they're interesting. They use a mix AWS, Google Cloud, and also local European providers.
Yeah.
Why? To meet different geographic compliance rules like GDPR, and also to optimize performance for customers in specific countries.
So managing compliance and performance across multiple regions or multiple providers?
Again, it absolutely demands a unified approach just to keep it all straight and ensure you're meeting all the requirements everywhere.
And one more, Siemens, they seem to leverage the best bits of different clouds, right?
That's the classic best-of-breed approach. They use Azure for their Internet of Things stuff, AWS for machine learning, and Google Cloud for data analytics.
Which really highlights the need for that kind of seamless integration between services on different clouds, the kind of integration MCPs are supposed to help with.
Exactly. These examples really drive home the point. While the strategic reasons for going multi-cloud are often diverse and, frankly, very smart, the day-to-day management, the operational side of these complex environments, it can quickly become a massive headache without either a dedicated platform or at least a very clear, unified strategy and the tools to support it.
Yeah, that headache factor seems unavoidable without that central control. But of course, even with these MCPs, it's probably not all smooth sailing, is it? It's not a magic wand.
No, definitely not. The Transformative Impact Report is good at pointing out some ongoing challenges and things you still need to consider carefully.
Like what?
Well, for one, there's still a significant skills gap. Finding people who have deep expertise across multiple different cloud platforms and potentially the MCP itself, that's tough.
Right. The complexity doesn't just vanish, it maybe shifts a bit.
It evolves, yeah. Now you need expertise not just in AWS or Azure individually, but also in how the MCP integrates with them, how to manage the whole system.
And what about security? You mentioned MCPs help, but does it solve everything?
Not automatically. Maintaining that consistent security posture across all these diverse environments, it remains a challenge, Just having the central platform doesn't magically ensure your security rules are being applied correctly and consistently everywhere.
So the tool is there, but you still need the right processes and people using it effectively.
That's right. The MCP provides the tools, it provides the visibility, but you still need to actively define, implement, and monitor your security policies across all your clouds.
And costs. Does the MCP just make costs go down?
It gives you the insights to make them go down, but
Mhm.
again, it comes back to that active management. Those FinOps practices we talked about are still absolutely crucial. An MCP can show you where you're spending, maybe where you're wasting money, but
Yeah.
you still need to act on those insights and optimize your spending habits.
Okay. And are there other potential hidden costs or complexities?
Yeah, a couple more mentioned. Sometimes there can be significant costs just moving data between different clouds. Those egress fees can bite you if you're not careful about your architecture.
Ah, the data transfer costs. Right.
And just the overall operational overhead of managing a multi-cloud environment, even with an MCP, can be higher. It might require dedicated teams, specialized tools, more complex monitoring setups.
So it's not necessarily simpler overall, just hopefully more manageable and visible?
That's a good way to put it. Right. These are all really important factors for you to weigh up as you think about your own multi-cloud strategy and whether an MCP could be a valuable part of that picture. It's definitely not a magic bullet, but it does offer a potentially much more streamlined and manageable approach compared to just operating in those isolated cloud silos.
Okay, so let's try and bring it all together then. The key takeaway seems crystal clear. Trying to manage a multi-cloud environment without some kind of centralized strategy, without that unified view, it can indeed be a major headache.
A huge headache.
And as we've really dug into, it can very quickly lead to serious budget overruns, those nightmare scenarios where costs just skyrocket. And it brings significant operational complexity too.
Absolutely. That lack of coordination is costly and risky.
But the emergence of these multi-cloud platforms, these MCPs, it does offer a really promising path forward, doesn't it?
It really does. By providing that unified view, that central point of control across your varied cloud resources, they can genuinely help alleviate many of these pain points. They can help you actually unlock the potential benefits of multi-cloud rather than just experiencing the downsides.
Right, making it work for you, not against you.
Exactly.
And that brings us to our final thought, something for you to maybe mull over after this deep dive. As organizations like yours increasingly rely on this mix of cloud services, how will the ongoing advancements, particularly in AI-driven multi-cloud management and maybe the development of more cross-cloud native services, how will these things continue to simplify this landscape?
Good question. Will they truly unlock the full power of a distributed IT infrastructure?
Yeah. So think about your own organization's cloud strategy. Or maybe you're just starting your journey. Is it cohesive? Do you have visibility? Could a more centralized approach, maybe involving an MCP, be the key to avoiding those current headaches, controlling those costs, and really optimizing your future growth in this incredibly complex, interconnected digital world?
Lots to think about there.
Definitely. Thanks for joining us on Outreach Your Limits with AI.